What up, nerds, and welcome to another maggot-filled episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 423, recorded Monday, May 15th, 2023. Tonight we're talking about Evil Dead Rise. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
What's going on, children?
How's it going, bud? Welcome back.
Thank you.
Likewise. I think for those keeping track of our travel destinations, this is our first recording all together in some time. Although we've been releasing regularly because we love you. About a month,
I think. Yeah, we pre-recorded a lot of shit so we wouldn't miss a week. But yeah, it's been a while off the mic, man. I think we've forgotten how to do this.
I've forgotten how to be terrible at this. I'm going to have to relearn.
How to talk into mic. I don't know.
I have to figure that one out by myself.
Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your friendly neighborhood yabo sucking parasite stains.
God damn.
Dude, not even my boy.
I don't disagree, but god damn.
Yeah.
The cream.
Boys, you guys can check Asia off your list now. You've been there, done that.
It's dead to me.
Did it. Now I know everything.
Yep. Anybody has any questions about Pan-Asian culture, I got you. Let me tell you about a little thing called BAF. The H is silent, in case you wanted to know.
Oh, BAF.
You boys are going to be able to speak with a deep insight now on any Korean or Japanese films we may cover in the future. Going to have all
hold
the
us
insights.
To that.
We did.
It's important that you hold us to that.
We did.
will
go on a great ghost tour. Shouts outs to Sean for leading that from Dark Side of Soul, and we did learn about some like Korean folklore and ghosties and shit. It was wonderful.
There you go.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Cool shit. And we learned how to get faced over at a restaurant on Soju. It was very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, Sean
drinking soju every night.
Sean was our shaman along the way in both of those rituals. So thank you. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a really great time, actually. Thank you for being our tour guide, Barbie, Justin, showing us the sights, some temples, and making backdoor deals in the Blue House over in Korea.
Really making those travel guide Barbie pumps do the work for you, huh?
Oh yeah. Just pumping it the whole time.
I just imagine you do a whole Bugs Bunny cross-dressing bit with the president or with the mayor of Seoul.
If only. Damn. Working on it.
All right.
Those calves, they're tight, man. I appreciate it. Let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Our June poll is currently posted over on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this June. The theme for June's 90s invasion, and the movies to vote between are Mars Attacks, Independence Day, and Body Snatchers.
Whoa, Bob, it feels good to finally begin back into it. How those numbers really looking now?
This is how they actually are.
Yes.
They
actually exist.
We know. We can answer the question. Mars Attacks is winning with about 50% of the votes. And Independence Day and Body Snatchers are way back, roughly tied. So, I mean, Mars Attacks is kind of killing it right now, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Some big Burton heads out there coming through.
Yeah. We've done just a handful of Burtons, though. Not too many.
It's true. Not that many.
Yeah.
So they're hungry for it. The people, they want it.
They're starving.
About every 2 years, we get a Burton in there.
Yeah. Dude, next year...
That's a better record than he's got these days.
Next year, we might have to cover Beetlemang Deuce, because I guess it's really
happening. Shit, dude.
Well, there's a Jenna Ortega in it, so we're legally obliged to review it, I think.
Yeah, I was a little like about it, but Willem Dafoe was cast recently.
Yeah. Willem is the only thing that's giving me hope as well.
Me too. That's why I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm okay with it. It feels a little money grabby, but when Willem Dafoe signs, I'm like, well, at least I know I'll be entertained.
Yeah,
it's like they just really trying to jam out as many. Oh yeah, well, Catherine O'Hara, that's true. I don't know, like
sure.
they're just. It feels like they're just jamming through all the Michael Keaton roles, giving him a little victory lap for his career right now.
That's true.
Batman, Beetlemang.
Damn, yeah.
Birdman 2, The Reckoning.
Birdman.
I would watch it. Yeah.
Birdman Deuce.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about it. I don't know. I don't have much faith in Tim Burton primarily, I think, at this point in time. So,
Wow,
the cast,
yeah.
I have no problem with it.
Maybe they can just carry his ass through.
Look, he's got. I presume he's going to have that Danny Elfman score. It's going to be his his zone. If he can't make that work, he's truly off the rails at this point.
I will say though, ever since we covered Beetlemang like 2020, I think we did, but we covered it in like early September when the weather was still kind of warm or whatever. And now it's a great kickoff for me for spooky season almost every year since then.
Do you have a movie for every day of the year?
Day.
I just plan it. I've got the
I
movie
have to watch
schedule.
Beetlejuice today. I have to watch it.
Just saying,
I don't watch it. My house is going to burn down and all my kids are going to die.
That nice little sweet spot where it's head towards spooky season, but the weather still feels kind of warm, you know.
We
For
know.
Bob, that's always.
That's what a boy likes.
I have to watch
That's October
Beetlemang
30th.
every day. Beetlemang. Yeah, get
Dude,
your
I
votes
should
in.
make a straight chillin' movie calendar. Soju's calendar.
You should.
All the appropriate movies.
This is
Taken.
the platform that your cult is going to be built on.
Randy, can you go ahead and design that for me and whip that up?
Oh yeah, you know,
Dude, we had
I
a
want to sell those.
we had
you
a
know?
great
Yeah.
idea that I texted Randy about when we were hanging out, and I don't think he took it very seriously. Which is
Oh yeah, we were.
unfortunate.
I couldn't text at that time.
And we want to make some straight chilling booty shorts, and on the ass it'll say "Spookylicious," and I think Randy kind of shrugged it
Spookylicious.
off, and that's not fair.
Devil made me do it, did he?
Mm-hmm.
The people would
TM.
love it. They would love it.
look, some ideas are too good for this world. You know, just can't be done justice to it.
If you would wear straight chillin' spookylicious booty shorts, call in now and let us know.
Let us know.
Pre-order them
Let us know
right
how
now.
deep in the crack you'll take them.
God damn!
You gonna be checking oil with them draws? What you gonna do?
Got to make that seem strong, son.
Come on, I need all the goth ladies in the spookylicious shorts.
Respond!
Get your votes in before the end of May. We'll see what movie we're talking about this June. Get your pre-orders in for the booty shorts right now. We got mini casts happening left and right. What day is it? Yeah, we just dropped a mini cast. Dude,
Where am I?
dude, time goes on.
The time zone's just not agreeing with you anymore.
I know.
You flew through the time zone, Bob. Now you can't get out.
It's
You know,
weird.
you may have traveled through time, but you'll never get that time back, baby.
I left Japan at 7:00 on like a fucking Monday and got home at 6:30 on Monday. What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, your
Change
flight
your
was on
life.
time. Good for you.
It was spot on time. Anyway, we got mini casts left and right. Last Friday, we dropped a mini cast where I was talking about the entirety of season 1 of Swarm. That's on Amazon Prime. Super dope show, co-created by your boy Donald Glover, about a fan of this pop star. And maybe your fandom gets taken a little bit too far. Definitely got big horror vibes. I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was pretty creative. Check it out over on Patreon if you want to hear my thoughts. Next minicast we got dropping is going to be hitting your ear holes on May 26th. And Juice, this was one of yours. You're talking about The Last of Us.
Whoa, yep, Last of Us. Finally getting
Finally.
around to it. Yeah. Well, so I recorded it when it ended. Well, a little bit later, but yeah, we just had a back catalog to get through. So, yeah, The Last of Us said that was the big hotness this year on HBO, and it was good. And it was like one of the probably best video game adaptations, most successful at least. So, that was about like 8 or 9 episodes. So yeah, I kind of try to go through each one and talk about it. And it's from the perspective, I've never played the game. So it was just kind of like a pure show perspective on that. So, yeah.
Right on. Yeah, check that out over on Patreon on Friday, May 26th. Speaking of Patreon, we got one brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Big, gigantic thank you to Evelyn W. for signing up on Patreon and showing us some love. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. We couldn't keep the show going without you guys, so sincerely thank you all for showing us love. As is tradition around these here parts, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Evelyn.
Slap my ass.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Slap my ass, Evelyn. Thank you.
Slap it. Yeah, thank you. Juice, that's it for Patreon. You got YouTube shit. What's going on?
Yeah, so I don't think I got a chance to announce it while we're gone, but I did. The latest thing that was released was a new video game review. This was for Have a Nice Death, which is a roguelike, kind of like 2D side scroller type of game on the Switch that I've been playing. It's got really fun, spooky vibes. Speaking of kind of like Tim Burton meets The Office kind of vibe to it, or Office Space. It's about Death Incorporated, where you play as Death, and like all the managers have kind of like taken over, and so it's got all these like spooky vibes, but in the background it's got all these kind of like Office vibes too, and the transition music for like when you're going to different levels or whatever, he's on the elevator and it's this bumping elevator music. I fucking love it. So it's really fun. It's got great spooky vibes too. I can't wait to play it even more around like spooky season, because it's just like got that Tim Burton like darkness, but the music is like fun and bouncy and stuff. It's really, I've really enjoyed playing it.
That does sound like a good one. If I had time in my game playing schedule to play it, maybe one day I'll get to it.
Well, maybe in about 3 years you'll open.
Probably.
Probably.
Maybe.
That's a low ball guess.
We can't pencil it in yet, but maybe. But yeah, I've been enjoying that one. Yeah, that's fun.
Nice. Check that out over on YouTube. I just want to say thanks to everybody that hung out this last Friday for our Joe Bob watch party. He's doing something different this season where he's kind of splitting the season in half. I think he's doing like 5 episodes up front, and there's going to be a bit of a gap, and then the second 5 are going to be coming. So this Friday is going to be episode number 5 of season 5, so there's going to be a break after that. We're going to do a watch party for that. I might have to start it a little bit late. I'm not totally sure, so just stand by. I'll post about it on Friday if you want to join the watch party. There'll be a link posted on all of our socials. Just click on it. You'll join the party. Also, this Sunday is going to be the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, and that's going to be airing on Shudder as well. And we're going to do a watch party for that. Starts at 9 p.m. Eastern this Sunday. And again, I'll post a link on all of our socials. Just click that, and you'll join the watch party. We'll see who's winning awards, and we can chat about it in real time. So,
whoa,
yeah,
hell yeah,
watch parties.
I heard tale that our old Duke boy got some love on the last Joe Bob episode.
Duke? The
old Duke boy. You know what I'm talking about.
You talking about Sunrise Cinema?
I'm talking about Babadook. It was a long way to get there. I heard.
I was going to mention that Sunrise Cinema, I think, got mentioned as well.
Yeah, there was a shout.
That's true. That's not my. That is now actually my pet name for Sunrise Cinema is Duke Boys Incorporated.
Like, I was trying to put the
Duke Boys are at it again.
I was like, maybe that's that dude's name who runs it.
It's not.
It's easier when you're seeing it as I was seeing it read DOOK. It's much easier to put together if you know that. Does not come across verbally.
So what you're saying, Joe Bob covered the Babadook?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. Last Friday.
That's all I was trying to bring up.
Let me translate this for our listeners.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to get into the etymology of the way my fucked up brain works.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's doing the more modern stuff. I heard Tigers Are Not Afraid recently too.
That's a good one.
Yeah, really good one.
Straight Chillin' did it first.
Both of them.
Why's he got a crib? Why's he got to bite our style like that?
Joe, come on, Joe. What are you doing?
Come on, Joe. What up?
Grow up, grow up.
Once we've covered it, there's no need to talk about it anymore.
We have the final
that
word.
movie ceases to be.
We are like Jerry Springer's show, but only the final word all the time. That's our show. That's
pour one out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, pour one out for you.
We got the old 10, boys. Let's move it along.
I know.
I've got more things to say. Bob.
Do you? I'm done. Is that it? Are our houses clean? I don't know. Probably.
That's a good.
Yes.
So.
It might be clean.
All right.
Okay, yeah, they're clean.
Now it's clean. All right, let's get into the main event. We are finally talking about Evil Dead Rise, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
We try to rearrange our show to make us get to the review faster, but now we just bullshit more.
This bullshitting on the front end is not optional. It can either be structured or not. That's your call, listeners.
We got to have some bullshit at the top, just some.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, we're a little late on this one.
Yeah.
Have you pre-ordered this box? Is it available now?
Yeah, and I have, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There it is.
So we're talking about Evil Dead Rise. This is obviously a new release. It's rated R with a runtime of 1 hour and 36 minutes. This was written and directed by Lee Cronin. It stars Mirabai Peace, Richard Crouchley, Anna Marie Thomas, and some other folks that I did not recognize at all. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A twisted tale of two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons, thrusting them into a primal battle for survival as they face the most nightmarish version of family imaginable. First-time watch for all of us, I assume. Gentlemen, would you recommend people check out Evil Dead Rise? Ray and DZ, why don't you kick us off?
We're so late to this release at this point, even though you and I both saw it like a month earlier than most people at that festival.
It was a while ago.
I would recommend this. Certainly Evil Dead fans are going to get what they want here for the most part. And if that's at all your speed, if the 2013 Evil Dead in particular was kind of your speed, you'll enjoy this one. I think it's worth, if there's still time. I don't think there is really, but it's worth checking out in theaters. It's a nice big spectacle movie. You're going to get the most out of it that way, in my opinion. I recommend.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would. I think this is definitely going to be one of the bigger or most like recognizable, just straight horror films from this year. I feel like whether you're an Evil Dead fan or this is your first Evil Dead, that you'll be able to go into it as a horror fan and definitely get something out of this and have a good time with it. So yeah, I would recommend people check it out. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
Yeah, I definitely would. And yeah, we'll get into more later. I would just say, yeah, I think that's a pretty clear recommendation from the Straight Chilling crew there. This, I believe Evil Dead Rise is still hanging out in theaters a little bit, but I'm pretty sure this week it hits VOD, so you can watch it at home now. It's pretty much everywhere. And last I saw, it made over 100 million at the box office, which is pretty successful. Okay. I don't know what the budget is offhand, but I know it was not huge. So we can probably expect some more Evil Dead in the near future here. So yeah, check it out. We are going to spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, did you type up this plot synopsis like 2 months ago?
Dude, I did, yeah. Hopefully it's good. I don't know. I haven't read it in a while.
Still relevant, yeah. I mean, I don't think the movie's changed, but let's see.
They re-edited it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a whole different movie now.
It's all wrong.
There was an overlook cut.
It was better. Yeah, I got the synopsis.
Festival films are just better, bro. They're just better at the festivals.
It's the good beer of events,
dude. I think there's definitely something to that. But
I mean, you did give Renfield like a 4, so
I saw it. I saw Renfield twice, once at the festival and once not, and then I saw this movie twice as well. We'll get into it.
Same.
Got the whole plot synopsis typed out in. Here we go. So 3 friends vacationing at a lakeside cabin, and one of them ends up succumbing to a demonic entity. She then scalps one of her friends and beheads the other. One day earlier, we see Beth visiting her sister, Ellie, in her high-rise apartment complex where she lives with her 3 children, Danny, Bridget, and Cassie. The kids leave to go get some pizza as an earthquake hits, opening a large hole in the parking garage. Danny crawls down in it, and he finds a creepy-looking book and a vinyl record he takes back to his room. He plays the record and hears a priest reading incantations from the Book of the Dead. Ellie's then attacked by an unseen entity in the elevator and returns to their apartment possessed. She falls to the ground, and her family believes that she's dead. They lay her in her bed, and she soon wakes up and begins attacking her family. They lock her outside the apartment, where she kills neighbors. She tricks Cassie into letting her back into the apartment, and Bridget appears possessed and starts eating glass. She attacks her siblings. Cassie supposedly kills her, and they tie her to the bed. Danny then tells his Aunt Beth about the book and records. She listens to the recordings as Bridget awakens. She stabs Danny in the chest as he lights her on fire, killing her. Beth and Cassie then escape to the parking garage via an elevator filled with blood. As the possessed bodies of Ellie, Danny, Bridget, and their neighbors all morph together to form this spider-like creature.
Family unit.
Yeah, you can say that. Tight-knit family. They have a final showdown in the parking garage where Beth kills the creature by forcing it into a wood chipper. The next day, we find the possessed girl from the opening scene. She also lives in the apartment building. She goes to the parking garage to leave for her cabin trip and is attacked by an unseen entity as well. Roll them credits, boys. Evil Dead Rise.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty by the numbers story-wise, I would say. I don't know. Like, that's...
Yeah.
I want to start out by saying, like, we all recommended this movie. I think that we all enjoyed ourselves watching this movie. I know you and I did, Bob. Juice,
Yeah.
I'm getting that feeling from you that you enjoyed yourself at least somewhat.
Yeah.
So, like, I would personally, like, I think that this is kind of on the lower end of my Evil Dead spectrum, but it's a pretty highly weighted spectrum in the positive direction. So that's not necessarily a huge dig. That said, I think there's a couple of things about this movie that kind of dragged on it, and I think that it definitely fulfilled the Evil Dead promise of having just the bare minimum story to get things rolling along. I don't know. It kind of has intimations of having something to say about like motherhood and shit, but it doesn't really fulfill that promise, I don't think. What do you guys think of that?
I agree.
Yeah. Oh god.
I don't think this movie has much of a message at all, and that's totally fine for an Evil Dead movie. I don't really need one. I'm not trying to pull anything deeper out of this than just like an entertaining kind of straight up horror movie, and I think it delivers on that idea mostly.
Yeah, there was something. So I watched this movie the first time, and I was like, I like it. But there was something gnawing at me, and I kind of talked about it with you guys when you came to Soul, where I was saying that I don't know. There's some thing about it that's just kind of pulling it down a little bit for me, and I just couldn't explain it. And so when I was watching it the second time, I took this note and I said, this feels like watching a good cover band. The notes are all there. I recognize the song, but it doesn't exactly have the same energy or feeling as the original band of the songs I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that tracks for me. Yeah.
That's
kind
of what's happening. Yeah, he's kind of
that's what I kind of feel like.
Hits, and even The Shining's greatest hits to some extent.
Well, yeah. It feels like all the beats are there. So I wouldn't say, oh, the gore is lacking, or, oh, you know, the effects or the Deadites and the way they act or anything.
I kind of think that is lacking, actually.
What is? The kills?
The gore, the kills, the Deadites.
Of course.
Like, it's all like,
really?
It's all in this movie, and it is satisfying to some degree. I think ultimately I come down, like, my sort of like broad opinion of this is like, it operates as a pretty successful horror movie, but I don't know that it operates as a very successful Evil Dead movie, which is a very high bar, to be fair. Because like when I think about the Evil Dead franchise, they're all, like, the movies and the show, I think, are all pretty dang successful because they sort of pick their lane, whether it be like straight ahead gruesome horror or the more like splat stick horror comedy, they pick a lane and they go as far as they can go in that direction, like all the way full bore. And I feel like this movie is trying to pick that like straight ahead horror lane for sure. But it feels like it goes maybe like 80% of the way and then kind of like turns around and comes on back. Like it like walks up to the line, and I feel like it doesn't like quite cross it. Like the ideas are there, but it doesn't like there was no moment in this movie where I like was like kind of like clutching my pearls, so to speak. Whereas like the original Evil Dead and 2013, there are moments that like are seared into my brain that I just conjure, like very easily. See, and this movie lacks that, I think.
I don't think it does.
Okay.
Not entirely anyway, because there's certainly at least one scene that people absolutely went ape shit about, and deservedly so, and that is the cheese grater scene. That shit stuck with people. Like that's the talk of the goddamn town. And I do agree that there's like, as far as like individual set pieces, there's not as many original set pieces that hit with that kind of impact the way that there were in 2013. They really went full bore with that one. I'll agree with you that one's got the gore card down in a head-for-head match. But I also think that they did a serviceably good job with this one in terms of the gore stuff, especially considering it was not all practical. Like I watched it a second time and I had a hard time picking out what was practical and what wasn't. Like it's a pretty good job I think they did for most of the stuff.
So to go off both of those ideas, but to pick a different scene, because this is another one I wrote kind of like a significant note on where I was trying to pinpoint my kind of problems with this movie. So to go off both of your ideas, there's this scene where the daughter's eating the glass.
Yeah.
Okay, they go in, and that's supposed to be one of those Evil Dead moments, like especially building off 2013, where there's a lot of fucked up body gore going on. So she's eating the glass, but I wrote, daughter eats the glass, but doesn't seem painful. It's like CGI fights where it seems like there's no weight to the character, where they're just getting tossed around and through buildings. And it's like, it doesn't seem to matter because there's no like real weight to the character. So when she's eating the glass, it didn't feel like something where I would be like, oh, that should really fuck with me, because they do this little thing where the glass kind of pokes out of her neck and it looks kind of cheesy because of the CGI and stuff. I thought
it looked great. I thought that looked great. And honestly, like that, what you just described is exactly what they did in 2013, where the girl was sawing her at her face. It was self-mutilation. She didn't seem to react with any sort of anything. And that stuck with me just the same. So I don't know that that's necessarily true.
Yeah, I think that's just so much more gruesome. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think they used more practical in the 2013 movie. But like scenes like that, where in 2013, where like, the girl's cutting her tongue and sawing through her face, and the one dude in the bathroom is like stabbing his face with the syringe over and over.
Yeah,
like, there's just moments that I'll never forget that like really made me like feel uncomfortable. And this movie, like, it gets up to that, like what you were saying, Juice, in that scene where she's eating the glass. It's like, oh my God, that's really, really dark. And it like walks up to the line. And if it just went like a little bit further, it would have been really impactful, but I just feel like it doesn't quite go far enough for an Evil Dead movie specifically.
I think they could have gone further with it. Sure.
I don't know why
the throat thing worked for me, though. I don't know. It didn't work for you guys. That's surprising.
It didn't really work for me. And I don't know why, because even as Bob is describing those scenes from 2013, my body has a visceral reaction. The syringe, like, oh my God. I can sit here and just picture that girl eating the glass, and it does nothing to make me uncomfortable, or I don't know why. It just, like I said, it's almost like the difference between, you can have a John Wick movie where it feels like the like things almost have a real world almost weight to them, and you're like, okay, so it feels like somebody's actually trying to punch somebody or something like that. And then you can have some CGI fucking Shazam bullshit where it's just like a bunch of graphics, and you're like, this means absolutely nothing, so that's how I kind of feel about it with this, where I can see something they're trying to depict as disturbing happening. It just doesn't affect me in any real way.
It's a little like, I think, too clean.
I wrote that note too.
It feels too safe almost, in a way, which I know sounds insane because she's eating glass. But just like in comparison to the other, and I don't want to specifically just spend this whole show comparing the movies because we should just talk about what it is. But like at a certain point, you kind of have to a little bit.
You have to a lot with it because that's the thing. Like one of the things, and I broke one of my cardinal rules, and I watched the Red Letter Media review of this, and they made one good point that I thought like kind of summarized some stuff for me, which is that while this movie hits all of the boxes of a good Evil Dead movie, and therefore to me fulfills the requirement or fulfills what a fan might expect for a requirement, it doesn't do enough to differentiate itself. So like, I don't know, there's something about like that scene in particular. Maybe if as I'm sitting here thinking about it, maybe they showed too much, like maybe because I remember that face cutting scene in particular, which I see as like a 1-to-1 corollary. They only show show it for like a second, and then it's just like blood smear on the face. So maybe they just spent too long chewing the scenery on that a little bit, and maybe that's the key difference. Maybe it's a timing and editing issue there. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think that like comparisons to the other ones have to happen because this movie is so informed by those other movies.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have anything of its own, which is fine because like that it fulfilled the promise. Like I said, I would like for the next one, as it seems like they're going to be anthologizing this and giving people like a chance to try it and this person a chance to try it and doing that. I'm okay with that so long as they continue to innovate in some capacity. And I know they tried by A, including kids, which was a good move, and B, the high rise, which is also an okay move. But like all the beats are exactly the same. And, I feel like maybe going a little bit off the checklist would be a good move, especially after 2013 hit the checklist like that, hit it just so.
Yeah, and I would say like 2013 had an even more difficult road ahead of it because it was cutting out Ash and like totally reinventing, not totally, but like somewhat reinventing the franchise and like figuring that out. And this movie, like it does some of its own stuff, but none of it is really like all that impactful. With like the use of the setting of the high rise is like only used so much, and I think the most impactful scene regarding that specific location is the elevator, which is kind of a riff on The Shining, another movie, another classic. Yeah. Like the creature at the end was like a cool idea, but I feel like it looked too clean and it wasn't scary to me. It just wasn't very scary. I don't hate the idea though. It just like that creature.
I don't know.
Sort of like sums up the way I feel about the whole movie, where it's just like the idea is not bad, but the overall package is a little too clean cut and not like dangerous enough. It doesn't feel dangerous to me.
It does miss like as a whole. The movie lacks a little bit of a punk rock edge, which is ironic considering the characterizations that give all the characters. Yeah, but like that aside, like I don't know, like none of the like big bads of these movies have ever been scary to me. Like. What's scary is the body horror stuff, if anything. Like none of them. Like I can't remember any.
I would go against that and say, I mean, the scary. I mean, I don't know, but now to be fair, there are some in this. The ending scene is not one of them. I thought the monster was janky as shit, but to go back to 2013, like what is scary about when she's in the basement with the chains over the door and stuff like that, I feel like that is a very memorable, standout, effective, horror iconish type of moment, that lives. And then, that's from the original Evil Dead. And so, there's something to build off from that. But I feel like that's the moment where you're like, whoa, that's the horror moment. This one doesn't really have that for me. Honestly, the closest thing I would think about, one effect that I did think was pretty good, it has a little bit of that stretchy mouth moment, but it's where she puts her finger on the record and like the sounds kind of coming out of her mouth or whatever. That was pretty good.
I don't know. I can't. Which scene are you talking about in 2013 in the basement? I was talking about like the end game baddies in particular. If we're talking about individual deadites, there's definitely some that are iconic and some that are forgettable for sure.
I was just
I would say that like, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that like in this one, the iconic thing is the people. Like the way that was handled was like it was its best trick. And like it, like scary, I don't know, but none of them actually are scary to me. There's just some are cooler than others. And I think that was a cool effect. It was like showing you. It was a cool way of like not showing you everything to allow your imagination to run wild somewhat. In a movie that's like famed for like showing everything, that was a nice departure, I think, a little bit. I don't know.
This movie's greatest asset for sure was casting Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, the mom. She slays it, man. When she's on the other side of that door looking through the people, her performance is like, it couldn't be better, I don't think. Like, that's a great feather in this movie's hat.
She did a fantastic job, and was her and the little girl actually I thought were the best in this movie. And she did kill it as a Deadeye. I've only ever seen her, I think, and she was in that Viking show that I watched, and she was okay in that, like not amazing, you know. But I thought she did a really good job here. But on the flip side, I wasn't crazy about the sister who's kind of leading everything. The other kids were fine. I thought that they kind of filled the roles that they needed to, nothing special. But the sister kind of bothered me. I don't know. She was a little wooden.
I don't think really any of the acting in this movie is to write home about, with the exception of a few key scenes. I think the one that we just mentioned was great. Like, and they weren't putting everything in or whatever, or they weren't doing their job. The job was done. I think everybody did a serviceable job, but there was a real. The second watch really made it hard for me to ignore the Kiwi accents that were sneaking through everything.
I didn't know. I didn't pick up on that.
Oh my God. It's if you, I think I've now cursed you, because then when you go to rewatch this movie, it's kind of tough to avoid. The little girl, she's got little girl voice, so it it kind of masks it. And Ellie is dead-eyed for most of the movie, so I think that kind of masks any of that stuff. Although I didn't see a ton from her, she did okay. But like Beth, she sneaks some stuff in there pretty consistently, and the other two kids kind of the same deal. At least if it doesn't sound like a Kiwi accent, it sounds like that's not quite right for an accent that I recognize. You know what I mean? So, I mean, job, but I don't want to denigrate any of them, because I think, again, like they did the job, they did the work, and the Evil Dead series not filled with A-list acting talent necessarily.
True.
Classically, not always its strongest card to play. So I can't really ding this movie for living up to that reputation. It's just in a little bit of a more distracting way, I would say.
I think the opening sequence of this movie was also another pretty strong point for it. The sort of zooming through the woods and then finding out it's just a drone, I thought was kind of an interesting fake out, but then the drone coming back later and using to like mangle the girl's face. The scalping in the cabin, and then of course the girl like floating up out of the lake, and then Evil Dead Rise coming up over the hills behind her. It was like that whole opening sequence I thought was pretty cool and like somewhat original too. I don't know, did that hit with y'all?
So here were two red flags that hit me, especially on the second watch, where I was like, okay, this might be why I have some problems with this movie. With this opening scene, there are two moments that happen really close together that I think kind of sum up some of my problems with this film. One is when she takes the drone and she puts it in her face, but it just immediately cuts away. They completely bitch out on that. And she comes back later and she's got the cuts in her face, but the damage is done. That really kind of rubbed me wrong when she did that. No,
I was hoping that would like it didn't look as impactful as I feel like it ought to have after that. They could have taken that gore certainly a lot further, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that was one. And then the second one was then where they were almost felt like they were kind of compensating for that, where she throws the dude's head up on the dog. And then I was like, okay, but I already know that this movie feels like a kind of Evil Dead 2 type of slapsticky goopy, because it doesn't look particularly realistic. It's all the way down to his like shoulders almost. I don't know, just something about it looked really fake. and almost like it was trying to be campy and slapsticky, but the movie is really like that. They might have a couple moments, but those were two red flags for me where I was thinking to myself, these are problems that I think kind of consist of the whole movie, where things don't really look very real. They don't follow through on the gore where they should. So I wasn't really crazy about this opening scene, honestly.
Okay.
I was a little split too. I would say that it's, for a title card reveal, it's a contender for best title card reveal of the year so far. I loved the deadite floating out of the water, and then it was great. Cold Rise, perfect. No notes on that. But I tend to agree, like, to some extent. I did, at the beginning of my second viewing, there was a little bit of a short featurette with Lee Cronin and some of the actors, and Lee Cronin said that his perfect tone balance was to try and hit somewhere between Evil Dead 1 and 2. Rob, on one hand, is like, I want him to go full bore one direction or the other, and he didn't quite do that. That might explain it. But also, and what you're saying is like, you know, it seems a little slapstick, but it's intermittent, and so much so that it doesn't necessarily feel tonally consistent. So maybe that's to blame, is trying to bridge that gap where you couldn't really. Although I will say, Evil Dead 2, pretty gory, very silly. Like,
Yeah.
who's like, I think you can be pretty silly and very gory. It's just this movie. I think the key difference is like the charisma and like insanity of Bruce Campbell is not really matched in any of these movies, really. So the smart move that 2013 made was to not even try to do the charismatic one-liners, and instead just go full bore into the gore direction, which is how it was originally conceived. But this one kind of wants to split the difference a little bit, and it suffers a little bit for it because it can't quite find its footing. Going back to the opening scene, though, I think that like there's parts of it that I like. The Kiwi accents in that are the worst in the movie. Absolutely. Like, it's very, very hard to ignore. But, you know, the head or whatever, I thought that was funny. If they kept up that level of funniness, fine. I also thought that her predicting the reading of her Book of Wuthering Heights, I thought that was like a good, like, that was cool. It's a similar thing to what they did in the first movie. Felt like something from that, and that worked. And the scalping, that worked great. Like, all those things individually kind of work for me okay for the most part, but with the Aussie accents and then not quite stacking together symmetrically, it does kind of have just a little bit of a ding on it. Its shine isn't as shiny as it ought to be at the end of all things taken as a whole. And then you lead into this. It feels like they like just kind of had to have a cabin to some extent. You know what I mean? Which is fine. I don't really mind.
They didn't have to have anything. So, like, I was listening to an interview with Lee Cronin, and he basically, I guess, was just hanging out with Sam Raimi. They were talking about, he was pitching ideas for movies that had nothing to do with the Evil Dead, and then he was just like, well, what about an Evil Dead movie? And then Sam was like, okay, yeah, what do you got? And he wrote the whole thing. Like, nobody said, like, you gotta have a cabin, kid. Like, he just wanted to
like,
do
Sam
it, you know?
didn't, but I mean, who knows? Like, studios give notes all the time. You have to have a cold open. 2013 even had a cold open. It was in a cabin, or but like that movie is like, it's hitting the cabin. I don't know. There's a lot of fan service in this movie, and I feel like they're trying to hit a fan service note by having a cabin.
It's
in
all
there.
Lee Cronin. I mean, he said as much. It's like his fucking vision. Like, I'm not.
Okay, well then in his mind it was. Okay, then what? I'm not saying you're lying to me. I'm just saying it's more involved than just saying Jesus Christ.
Yes,
okay.
Well,
I don't know.
So we've kind of danced around it, brought it up a little bit, but since we're talking about tone and where the tone should have gone, and kind of they didn't take the gore far enough, or they kind of add in a little bit of slapstick, and that doesn't land. What I think in my mind too that I recognize is they brought in this kid aspect, and where we said, you know, oh, this movie kind of hints at some motherhood, but it tries to introduce some things that on paper seem like they would be deeply, deeply disturbing. And so from a standpoint of just looking at this from a script idea, to say almost, you know, the 2013, it had a little bit of that too, where she was kind of dealing with a drug problem and they were related, and that kind of situation, withdrawal and stuff like that, where it almost seems like, how do you make 2013 more fucked up? How do you kind of push the envelope?
Yeah,
well, what if we put kids in there and one of the women is pregnant? And you're like, oh my God, okay, well, yeah, that is
I was a little worried
really
about
disturbing. Yeah, but I feel like it has less impact somehow when these kids are dying. I wrote some other note. I'm not exactly sure where it is right now, but this family is slaughtering each other. The emotional weight is not there for that. There's, you're stabbing your sister in the face, or, your brother is getting ripped apart in front of you, whatever it is. And nobody is capable of delivering any kind of performance that matches that,
I'm split on that, because on the one hand, yeah, I see what you're saying, but on the other hand, this is an Evil Dead movie. Like, Evil Dead movies have survived very well on the back of like one central figure kind of being that person, and they kind of try to do that with this girl, but they also spend a lot of time trying to set up the kids for that reason, and for some reason that falls flat. I wonder if like the age of the kids is maybe to blame, because like maybe if the kid who ate glass was like 4 years younger, like it would have been more impactful. The little girl being in peril, by the time she gets in any real like terrifying mortal danger or whatever, she is mostly like, we've seen a lot of shit by that point. And there's a young kid outside the door that gets killed, but he's kind of an off-screen character. I don't know. I'm kind of split. I have a heart. I can justify it both ways. I feel like they tried to fulfill that promise, but it's kind of hard to fulfill that promise if you're not willing to take it full seriously.
Well, yeah. So you even said in the previous movies, most of the characters are inconsequential, but specifically in this movie, they propose the idea that that's not true, because it's a family. They actually matter to each other on the deepest kind of level, to the fact where even one of them is pregnant. And so the danger should even be more, ramped up, but it doesn't really feel like that to me.
And I think maybe, again, that's a tonal whiplash thing, because they sneak enough jokiness in there and enough one-line. Like, the thing is, like, the one-liners aren't that funny for the most part. Like, there's a few that are funny. Titty sucking parasites, hilarious, love it. Mommy's with the maggots now, not hilarious, but great line. Like, there's some good lines in there. And then there's some that just don't hit. Like the Stephanie joke didn't really hit for me. I don't
think this movie was funny at all. Like, really, at any
I think it was trying to be, though.
Oh yeah,
trying to. I think it was aiming for humor a lot more than it actually landed.
Well, I think that
is what I'm saying. And by aiming for that, they're splitting difference. Yeah, they're splitting the difference between what Justin's talking about, which is emotional weight for the for the characters of these kids. I feel like it's just a little middle on that run. It just checks all the boxes otherwise.
To talk on that point a little more, as far as like the emotional weight of the family, I don't know. The comedy didn't hit. I don't really think that. I don't know. I think that was a failure. This family, to me, like, they try to sort of sketch out all these individual characters and like give you a sense of who they are, but it feels a little too like perfectly like cool and alternative in a way that makes them not feel like a real fucking family in any way.
Yeah,
they're like. The mom's like a hip tattoo artist, and she's fixing her tattoo needle, which comes into play later, of course. And then one of the kids is, cutting the heads off her dolls and sticking them on brooms, and that comes into play later. And then one of the kids is putting on a DJ concert in his bedroom, and he's super good at it and cool, and that comes into play later. And it's just like a little too fucking convenient and like perfect for them to feel like a real family.
Fucking suburbs guy over here, am I right?
There's
almost get raised in the streets like we did.
Oh yeah, these kids are really slumming it with their $10,000 DJ setup or whatever. But there's some sort of like there's no messiness to it, even though they're like this sort of more modern family, and they're not like the mom and the dad and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the white picket fence or whatever. But they're still like, I don't know. It doesn't feel super real. I guess it's a little too squeaky clean, even though they're like an alternative kind of family.
I think this is another thing that feels like they tried to do that. So at the beginning, they act like there's a little tension between the daughter and the mom. She's like, you didn't clean my shirt, or I'm doing this. And then they try to act like there's a little tension between the two sisters, where my husband left me, you weren't there to support me and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't matter.
Hollow, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's an honest attempt, but go on, Bob. Sorry.
Even the character of Beth being pregnant doesn't matter in this movie at all.
Yeah.
Like
they try. The thing is, it doesn't matter, because the character, the story doesn't really land the way it's intended, but you can see what they intended to do.
Sure.
So that's what I'm like. I have to give credit where it's due. It's not for lack of trying that these things didn't happen.
Sure.
And I'm struggling to figure out exactly why they didn't land the way they were intended, because you would all the things that I would suggest to somebody as a complete amateur dickhead to any saying, "Hey, screenwriter, let me tell you how to do your job." All the things I would think would make for the emotional core of this movie to be strong don't really work. So I feel like it's got to be undercut somewhere, either by the humor or Rob. I think you were kind of touching on something like this is an alternative family, and I think families like this definitely exist. I don't think
I agree.
I don't think it's unrealistic in that sense, but it's not as relatable. And the kids are so self-sufficient and left to their own device to the point where they kind of don't read as the same level of kids that you want them to read at. They don't seem as vulnerable when the time comes for them to become the vulnerable kids that everybody's worried about protecting. So maybe that undercuts it a little bit too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So that makes perfect sense, I think.
I would like to talk about some positives if possible.
Yeah.
I feel like we've railed a lot.
Yes.
I like this movie. So I don't know.
That's the thing. That's the thing is, I actually, when they introduced the mom, I liked spending a little time with her. I almost wish I got a little bit more, but I liked her kind of being a tattoo artist. There's some great Evil Dead moments here. I thought the mom mostly for my killed it. I love, the titty sucking parasites line.
Deadite version of her is no notes great.
Yeah, and I loved to utilize the setting really well. I loved the peephole scenes. I thought that was really cool. The way she even looks into it, the way she kind of dances between banging up against the door and then the singing. I thought that was a really cool aspect. Her singing to her daughter and luring her there and stuff like that. I don't know. All of her scenes, I thought she did a fantastic job, and everything surrounding the main dead, I was all about it pretty much. There's a really good vomit scene, I guess, for Evil Dead grittiness. Yeah.
Check box.
Something this movie did that I think was very effective and smart was, I guess there's a scene in Army of Darkness where Ash finds 3 books of the dead, and this movie
3 books.
Yeah, this movie
Nobody said anything about 3 books.
So Sam Raimi did, motherfucker. This movie takes that 3rd book that we hadn't seen before. So the first trilogy is focused on the one Necronomicon. 2013 had its own style of book. That's book 2, and then this is book 3. And the design of this book is fucking probably the most interesting of all 3, I think, with the teeth on the side. And the drawings therein are really fucking cool looking too. I just thought that was an interesting idea that he grabbed for that 3rd book that nobody had ever really seen before, and sort of helped open this idea in this world to whereas I think that's how they're going to carry the franchise on from here on out. The books are just going to show up in different places and different times, and people are going to have to just fucking deal with it,
I think that's cool too, but also I don't think it needed it. Was anybody really questioning, well, this book looks different? It looked different in Evil Dead fucking 2. I don't think anybody's worried about that since the 80s.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it just leads an opportunity to make it different. I don't think anybody's too concerned about it.
I know. It's interesting, and I don't begrudge it being there, but at the same time, I'm the more it's one of those things where you start dallying with overall rules. And all of a sudden, what the beauty of what they're doing with this franchise right now is just kind of letting each movie be its own thing and letting it do its own thing. They've been so tonally whiplash as it was that it makes perfect sense for this franchise for them to do that and just showcase an artist's vision of what this is. And that's fine. So, but the more you start constraining it with interfilm rules, the more constrained those visions become, maybe. So I'm a little concerned about that in the future.
The thing I liked about this movie and the idea of Evil Dead moving forward and the way that they're approaching it with this movie, so this was an overall positive for me for this movie and for this franchise, is Evil Dead movies, they're essentially possession movies. And so when we talked about like The Exorcist recently and stuff like that, and even other Exorcist movies, kind of moving forward, like what can you do? Last Halloween we did the trip split of the Exorcist movies and kind of breaking that subgenre out of the just kind of Catholic Church idea or the priest coming to save things. These are kind of the most interesting types of possession movies to me now, because the Deadites have like a certain kind of personality. It allows for some really interesting like acting chops to kind of shine through. It allows for a very unique type of situation that isn't just the Catholic Church versus Satan, and so that's why I kind of like this franchise to kind of carry on more interesting type of possession films. That's how I see it in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like to think of like the Deadites and how they operate as completely fucking amorphous. And it's like once you read the story, the passages, it's clear that you're fucked. Like there's no like clear path out of that. And there's no like chant and obviously like in this movie, they take pains to show that like literal monks could not get this Evil Dead shit to go away. They had to fucking bury it in an old bank vault. I thought that like the way they found the book, I thought that was cool. That set piece was really awesome. I loved like the record. I thought that was an interesting way to have it, have the words spoken, all that shit. I loved all that stuff. But it, like what it accomplished is what you're saying. Is like it's all abandonment of hope of any sort of like traditional exorcism or anything like that. All that shit doesn't matter because this movie's these possessions are not, they don't follow logic or rules. They just do whatever the fuck they want and they play with their food.
Yeah, it's like Looney Tunes meets a straight up horrific possession movie. It's like kind of the vibe. Are there any other major points you guys want to touch on before we go ahead and rate Evil Dead Rise?
I had one more kind of critique, not to kind of harp on it, but just to maybe get you guys' idea. And it kind of touches off what Randy said. And I swear when I wrote this note, I could almost kind of hear Randy's voice saying what he just said of like, oh, they like to play with
my dick.
I just picture Randy saying that.
Suck my dick.
Saying, that's a good bump to pull for later.
That's great.
We'll make it cleaner in a second.
So,
impossible.
So the idea of him saying, oh, they play with their food or whatever. But there was this one thing. So for instance, when she takes the scissors and she shoves it in her face or whatever, I wrote, should the scissors in the face even slow it down? I feel like there's too much of this for the small space. They run, they get caught, they stab them or something. They slow them down like, oh, it's dead. And then they do it again. It's kind of that you're in a small space, which I liked the idea of putting it in an apartment building. But as a result of that, it almost feels like almost every scene is they're coming at you. You stop them. They act as if they're dead. You kind of get away and then they pursue you again. I just felt like there was a little too much of that. And the scissors,
maybe.
The head can exist on its own. It can. So why would a scissors into its face make it act like it's dead?
See, that's part of the like lack of logic that I think works for the Evil Dead franchise. Like, and the thing is, like, what you're describing is literally in every Evil Dead movie. Like all of them have the play acting dead. Some of them call it out more clearly than others, and this one maybe does it maybe one too many times to what you're saying. But I think that I think that's a staple. I think that's as much checking a box as anything else, because you're right. They're in a small space, but that's kind of usually, Army of Darkness aside, that's always the case to some extent.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's such a big deal. But I can understand the argument. Sure.
Yeah. I think it's really just like a necessity for like the plot,
the movie's sake.
Yeah, you got to make these characters last 90 minutes, or at least some of them, so like you got to slow the Deadites down one way or another, and it's just I can roll with it. It doesn't really make sense, but it doesn't bother me.
Sometimes you bury them and they come back. Sometimes you chop their head off in a fucking vice. It is what it is. But what this movie could have used is an ash hand running around or some shit. Like maybe the cat. They hinted at that cat, and I thought for sure that cat was going to be a deadite. But no, they didn't do that.
Yeah, a cat
deadite. They didn't do anything with that cat.
That would have been great. Well, it's just to like point out that you could get from room to room.
Could get in the vents.
Yeah. That would have been awesome, though. Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
Dude, that ductwork would have not have supported her body weight. It would have fallen right through the ceiling.
That's your voice in my ear every time I see a fucking movie with ducks.
She would have been crawling out there, and it would have just completely crashed through the drywall ceiling.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong?
That's what we need to see in a movie. Somebody trying to get through the vents and just completely crashing. I think that has been done in
some comedies.
Yeah.
Grow
up, bro. Grow up.
Yeah. Come on. Don't tell me I'm wrong, bro.
Don't. Let's rate this thing out of 5. Juice, go ahead and kick us off. How do you feel?
All right. So yeah, I watched this a second time, and in some ways I was kind of more forgiving of it, and then in other ways it really kind of shined the light on what was kind of bothering me about this film. And again, that just kind of clicked in my mind where it's like, if I go see a good cover, it's almost like if you know you're going to see a cover band, then you can be like, okay, yeah, they're good for a cover band. They're playing I can't go see the band. I like, maybe they're dead, or maybe, I can't, they're not touring or whatever. So this is, this band is doing a good job for what they're doing. And so in that way, I kind of gave this movie a little bit more leeway, because it kind of felt that way to me, where I was like, this kind of feels like just a decent, fun-ish kind of horror movie. You got your kills, you got your basic plot, you got your basic kind of gores, and it's fun in that way. And in that way, I was saying this is a positive. But then it did feel like they wanted to do some of their own things, and so then I couldn't. It's almost like the cover band throwing in one or two of their originals, and when you listen to the originals, you're like, oh, okay, those songs aren't very good. That's kind of what it.
This one's by us. Oh, bathroom break.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like, where the original beats of this, or I just feel like it didn't go anywhere. There was nothing dynamic about it. It's just the mom is pregnant. Okay, what is that going to do? Nothing. And this is a family. What is that going to do? And nothing particularly special. So I kind of went back and forth on it. I think this is like good enough. But yeah, it would be on my lower rank of Evil Dead movies. But to be fair, that's a pretty solid list. But I don't know. I think I'm just let me see if there's do we really need another shotgun and chainsaw? Like,
no,
is that like, do we need that? I mean, come on.
That's a checkbox. I mean,
yeah.
That's the thing, is like every checkbox is also fan service. And so too much of it feels bad, but too little of it feels bad too.
Dude, I could go with none of it. Just none of it. I don't need it.
Yeah. The shotgun, I was like, okay, we can kind of do half this. But when the chainsaw came in at the end, I was like, okay.
When she says, come get some, come on, man.
Dude, I wrote that note too. I wrote, come get some, and I wrote the little like, ugh face.
We don't need it. We just don't need
it. The cringe face.
Give her a fresh line, man. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Just anything, like, I don't know.
So some of my notes, I did say the voice is good. The Deadite voice, I like it. It's good. It's a little too clean looking. Bob kind of mentioned that. I wrote it had kind of this late 90s, early 2000s goth vibe, like Buffy or the moms. I don't know. It kind of gave me that vibe. I thought the building was cool, and I thought it looked cool. Too many things are telegraphed. The scissors, the yellow grinder thing. The design of the book looks pretty cool. A little girl does a good job acting. Older sister, Beth, kind of bothered me. I feel really bad for the mom, because the mom didn't really do anything, but I think that's kind of effective because the son like really just kind of fucked them. Some good lines, titty second parasites, tattoo gun. I wish it was used more. The singing was cool. And then finger on the record was cool. Don't need the shotgun. Don't need to come get some. So yeah, overall, I think I'm going to give this a 3.25. I mostly liked it. I was mostly kind of positive on it, but there's just some things that rub me wrong and kind of bother me about this. And maybe I'm judging too harshly because it's got that Evil Dead title on it, but I feel like that goes both ways. If you're going to slap that on your movie and be able to use these beats to your benefit, then I got to judge it a little more harshly on those beats. And so that's where I kind of feel like I am. But yeah, Bob, out of 5, where are you going to put Evil Dead Rise?
Oh, hey. Like at the end of this movie, when she says, come get some to finish my train of thought here, like, it has nothing to do with this character. I understand that like that's the tagline that's on the pizza box, and that's allegedly what she saw. And like for some reason she's thinking about pizza. It doesn't make sense. Like, why don't you ever say something that actually makes sense for this character to say? Like have the Deadite monster call her a groupie whore one more time, and have her say like I'm a fucking lead guitar tech, or have her call the monster a groupie whore, or just something that fucking makes sense to the character. Like come get some is just a useless callback. Like the chainsaw, like the shotgun, like the eyeball that pops out and goes into somebody's mouth. All of these like little beats are just, they're kind of eye-rolly to me, and it doesn't like add anything. It's just sort of like you get it, you get it. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really like add to the story or like serve the story in any way.
Behind the scenes on that one, I love Bob's.
Hey, you get it. You've seen these movies a million times. I know you have. I do like the opening sequence though, like with the use of the drone flying through the woods was cool, and like the words Evil Dead Rise, literally rising, I thought was a really neat way to kick the story off. I think moving the plot away from a cabin and into a high rise for the most part was smart, just a new setting to kind of freshen things up a little bit. Ultimately, it hits all the same beats as if they were in a cabin, so like it doesn't change the story too much. Obviously, like we wouldn't have the elevator sequence, which again is probably for me the most memorable sequence in the movie. That and the people, I guess. But like even that is still like a riff on The Shining, so it feels like a little like, hey, you get it, you've seen the fucking Shining. I know you have. It's just there's like too much of that going, like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like too much of that for me. The characters are like somewhat fleshed out.
Don't touch me.
Don't touch me, Lee Cronin. Don't do it. The characters are like somewhat fleshed out, but like not too much, and like in a way that feels a little too clean still. I do like some of the gore, but like I said at the top of the show, like this movie goes like 80% of the way, and it just doesn't like fully commit to the gore. Like the cheese grater scene, Randy, you mentioned, like that really fucked people up. They didn't go far enough. It was just like one scrape with it. Like I feel like if Sam Raimi made this movie, he'd be like taking people's like fucking cheeks off like left and right with a cheese grater, just like going ham. And like, I don't know, like it feel like it just didn't take these ideas quite far enough. The spider creature was like a cool idea at the end of the movie, but again, it's like not really scary. I don't think they took it quite far enough. There are some like scalpings and like decapitations and stuff that like the gore is here for sure. It just didn't feel like super like scary. The glass eating didn't really feel like it was really that scary. This is a tight movie. It's like a tight 90-minute movie. There's really no fluff. It sort of hits the ground running and it doesn't really bore you, which I appreciate. I like the new book design. I thought that was really cool. Leading into that was a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's about it. The sound design I think was pretty damn effective too. The wood chipper at the end felt like maybe a little bit forced too, but I don't know. You gotta paint the walls red one way or another, so that it is what it is. Yeah, it's just a little too like middling. If there was supposed to be any comedy at all in this movie, it did not land for me whatsoever, and the gore doesn't go quite too far. Overall, I don't think it's a great Evil Dead movie. It's definitely towards the bottom of the list, but it is a pretty effective horror movie. So there's more good than bad. I do like this movie, even though I'm like kind of shitting on it. I'm going to come in with a 3.5 overall for Evil Dead Rise. Randeezy, how do you feel?
Something occurred to me while you were describing your pros and con list there. You have this tattoo gun situation.
Yeah.
It threatens the middle child. She gets threatened with it and then eventually cut with it. And then that spreads into, the infection or whatever you're going to call it. And then she attacks Beth with a cheese grater. Why couldn't that tattoo, like mom make a tattoo, like something more than just a scrape, like something like, I don't know, whatever it is, like horror or something on her daughter's face, something horrific like that. And then the girl's like, I got to get this off my face. Yeah. And then she's in the kitchen and is scraping it off of her face.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. Just a little bit
Just
of
take
that
it a little
random
further.
magic.
A little further.
Also, I'm ready to scab for any writers that have quit on you.
Well, we're the B team.
You want terrible ideas? We're ready to just suck it up and scab for anybody.
I think that's a pretty good idea. I've something I forgot to say real quick. There's like really
WGA strong.
The Beth being pregnant in this movie is just like, it doesn't really add up to anything. I feel like if this was directed,
it's almost pro-choice. To some degree, or pro-life rather.
Yeah, I saw people saying that online, and like, if you, I don't. You'd think
have
this
to.
movie's
You'd have to take it more seriously than I'm willing to.
I really don't think it's trying to say anything.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Say what you're gonna say.
If Sam Raimi had directed this movie, like we would have got like a deadite baby. There would have been something crazy fucked up. That's all.
I thought that baby was coming out, man.
Right?
I thought there was gonna be a fetus deadite.
Too,
okay.
Like, there's a few extra steps they could have taken to make a few more set pieces that really would not exist in another horror movie. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of them. So,
well, they play it a little. I know they've done this in other Evil Dead movies, but like, okay, you get a little scratch from the tattoo gun and you get infected with the deadite. She spits blood in the ant's face.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it actually has anything to do with getting infected. I just think that's the form that
sure. No, I'm just saying from a rule standpoint, like we've seen people get blood thrown up in their mouth, and even that happened in this one.
Hey.
But like, she gets attacked with the cheese grater, which the other girl gets attacked with a gun, and that infects her. And then the boy gets blood thrown up on him. She spits blood in the ant's face. She's fine. I'm just saying.
It's
like, you're right. It's not
no rules, just right.
But
baby.
the thing is, that's no rules exactly, and that's maybe why this feels so clean, is because it is hitting all those check boxes, and it's doing that in a series that defines itself by not playing by even its own rules.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's lacking in the punk rock department there. A little less DIY grunge aesthetic. They certainly intimate towards it, and they certainly try to hit all those things, but it's just not quite, it's not quite anarchic enough. It's hitting those, it's painting those numbers right on the number. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally.
So I think that's ultimately my biggest critique with this, that and the Kiwi accents that kind of killed me the second time around. But for the most part, I enjoyed the fuck out of this movie. This is such a good, like, breeding ground for interesting creators to like get their chance. And like, if this is as bad as it gets, I think this series could fucking rule. Like, if this is as like, if they continue to like innovate on this and make it more bombastic as it goes forward, then we're in good shape. If they continue to like hit those same beats every time out of fan service necessity, I think that's a losing equation. Ultimately, the thing that makes this franchise work largely has a lot to do with how variable it is. So let it vary wildly. There are no rules. Let's live by that.
Just right.
So that's my biggest complaint. Again, but I fucking had a great time. Both times I enjoyed myself. I think that the gore worked for the most part for me. Some of the effects were like indistinguishable. Like, I know that they used a lot more CG than in previous films, and it worked for the most part for me. I liked the glass going down the throat. That's a vulnerable spot to me. It hit me in the right way. The cheese grater, that sort of hit in the right way. The peephole was a great set piece. The elevator, I thought, was a pretty good set piece. It just felt like it was a stand-in for the forest, and that was a little, I don't know. For the most part, individual components of this work for me, and then a few things really didn't. The fucking the record. I like all that shit. Everything to do with the monks, I really loved. Yeah, it's a 3.5 for me. It's a good movie. It's a good Evil Dead movie, but it's not a great Evil Dead movie, and it's not a great movie. Overall, 3.5 is where I'm at with it.
Right on. So that's going to put our aggregate at a 3.4. Still pretty fucking good. Pretty positive there.
I mean, 68%, D plus. Yeah, but that's
D plus. Fucking hell.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
I'm the cream.
You know, D plus is pretty good.
The cream of your crop. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Evil Dead Rise.
Certified dead.
All right there, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to give these gentlemen the chance to guess within the best of their abilities what the critic and user rating on RottenTomatoes.com is for Evil Dead Rise. We're going to start with the critics, as we usually do. And I'm going to start with Juice, our esteemed tour guide Barbie. You're going to give us our first critical guess. 198 reviews for this film, 198. So keep that in mind. What do you think the percentage aggregate positive score is going to be?
I've even I completely avoided even our Evil Dead Rise Slack chat, just because, I just didn't want to spoil the episode or anything before it came out. So I don't really know how people are feeling about this movie. I would assume it's kind of positive, and it's got that kind of horror theater appeal, where people last year were freaking out about the black phone, but I was like, that's okay. I think it's kind of got that, where it's kind of fun to watch in the theaters as an advertised horror movie. So I think that's going to give it a pretty solid bump. I'll say pretty close to us, man, 75. I'll say 75.
75. All right, Bob, how about you? Where are you at with this one?
Yeah, I feel like the overall vibe for this is pretty dang positive. I'm going to go higher than Juice, and I'll just take an 80.
80, all right. So 75 for Juice, 80 for Bob. The correct response was 83%. That's going to give it to Bob for our critical score. That's a certified fresh film, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Yep, 83%. So let's move over, before we read the critics' consensus, let's move over to the audience score. There are over 2,500 verified ratings here, so almost approaching $3,000. Bob, let's start with you this time. What do you think that those aggregate scores are going to net to?
Man, there's got to be some Evil Dead purists that are butthurt about this. I think it's probably going to be lower, if I had to guess, and I do have to guess.
You have to guess.
How much lower, though? I'm going to... man, it could be crazy low. How many people are butthurt? I don't know. I'm going to go with a 70. I'll just take a 70.
Okay, that's how much butthurt. Okay, that's the quantity of butthurt. 70%. Yeah, there you go. 70% otherwise. All right, Juice, let's hit it with you. Let's round this thing out. Where are you going to put those audience scores?
Yeah, that's a good guess. I could definitely see this in the 60s, but I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say not as many people are butthurt. I think sometimes the generic aspect helps it. I think it makes it more appealing for a wider audience, maybe. Maybe we're too
You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
I won't allow it. So I'm going to take my 75. I'm going to say it's probably still somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's 75 for Juice, 70 for Bob. This one for the audience, 77. Juice is going to split that trip.
Oh, that's a hell yeet.
77. You guys both lowballed all of your answers today. This was higher in both categories than you both guessed.
That's two high scores. I'm surprised by both of those scores, honestly.
Yeah. Honestly, for the audience, I think you're right to say that there's people that are probably purists or whatever and don't like it. And there are definitely some people who are just would review anything they saw and just put whatever they fucking felt on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that, I think that this hit so many fan boxes that not too many fans are going to be pissed. It's heavily endorsed and promoted by the man and the myth and the legend, Bruce and Sam themselves.
I would almost say that 2013 was probably more deeply criticized by because people, I like the slapstickiness, or this didn't need to be done, or I think
the reputation of 13 has
of that
grown, and this one people are more ready to accept it because it's broken that ground.
The butthurt floweth. Always.
The butthurt. The critics' consensus reads as follows: offering just about everything longtime fans could hope for, while still managing to carry the franchise forward. I don't know that it carries it too far forward, but I appreciate that they are making some steps to make it stand out, even if I don't think they fully worked.
Sure.
Audience says, this is the audience aggregate consensus, whatever it's called. Audience says, we don't get those every time. Evil Dead Rises' intense horror and inventive gore help make up for a so-so story that downplays the franchise's signature humor. I don't know, man. I think by Lee Cronin's own words, he was trying to strike a comedic balance in there too, and some slapstick. And I think he did. I mean, we had the literal eyeball pop scene. There's no way that wasn't intended to be slapstick humor. As much as it was a reference to, I just think that some of that slapstick didn't land because it was not tonally consistent with itself.
Yeah, it was really out of place. Yeah.
So let's read some negative reviews. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. We're rolling the dice as we always do. Let's see what this has to say. Negative review number 1. As an entertaining but pale and annoyingly calculated composition that adapts iconic images and invokes a glamour that they never quite reach themselves. Full review in Spanish. Wow. That was very eloquent for not being the native language.
They calculated, that I think that's what it feels like. It feels too planned. Not punk rock enough. Not inspired enough,
Not funny though. Bad. Funny
review. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we try.
Let's see. One more just to round things out. Lee Cronin serves up considerable gore with monotonous po-faced earnestness. What does po-faced mean? P-O-faced.
I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
I was going to guess
no idea
Edgar Allan Poe, but P-O, it would be incorrect. So I don't know.
Po-face. The meaning of po-face is having a solemn, serious, or earnest expression or manner, piously or hypocritically solemn.
Okay. Well, sure. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know if that's the dig that he thinks it is.
Okay.
I have to read this one though, because I read it while you were reading that off. This says Evil Dead Rise is a movie made by someone who grew up watching the Evil Dead movies and not Three Stooges. I think that's pretty apt.
Fair,
pretty apt. Yeah. So that's our Rotten Tomatoes segment. I'm going to close her off. Bob, why don't you tell me what's coming next?
Hey, we got some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Yes, it is. So this movie was originally meant to be released on HBO Max, direct to streaming, but I guess it performed really strongly during some test screenings they had, so they decided to put it out theatrically. I think it was supposed to come out last fall originally, so they pushed it 6 months or something, like a long time.
And outside the Halloween window.
Yeah. I think it was a good idea, though. Clearly, it made over $100 million at the box office, so it was profitable, and it was a fun theater watch. I think it was a good call ultimately. In this, so I do have the budget written down. It was $15 million for the budget. If you double that for any sort of advertising and whatnot, and it was advertised pretty well.
Nice.
Net $70 million, not bad, and it's not done, obviously.
I think they showed just a little too much in the trailers, but I always kind of feel that way, I think.
It was a strong trailer, but I guess when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, well, that was a lot. Not everything, but it was a lot of it. Yeah, it was a lot.
They showed a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of the biggest iconic moments are in the trailer.
Mommy's with the maggots.
Hold some of that back.
Yeah. A little much.
Hold back the peephole or the maggots line. One of those has to stay back. At least they didn't put the titty sucking parasites in the trailer. At least they got that iconic
at the end.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yabo sucking Parasite.
Thank you, Bob.
Director Lee Cronin
We're cultured
stated,
around here.
Oh, yeah, we've seen Hocus Pocus, okay? Despite what you may think. Director Lee Cronin stated in an interview 6,500 liters of fake blood were used in this movie. That's 17. 1,
we don't calculate blood in metric system, okay?
Well,
this is an American franchise.
Randy, get a liter of cola.
Out by big metric.
1,720 gallons for all you Americans listening.
Oh, thank God.
Thank God.
I can picture the milk jugs of blood full now.
Milk jugs specifically?
God, that's how they package the fake blood as in
1 gallon. Just getting the milk jug.
The pizza place the kids go to in the movie is called Henrietta's Pizza.
Henrietta's.
Yeah, which is another reference to the original. The Henrietta, I think, is the Deadite that ends up getting locked in the basement, and she's like popping up or whatever.
That's the doctor who reads off the passages. That's his wife in the second one, anyway, because she sings the song to What's Her Face, a lullaby, which is another callback that happened in this movie.
Yeah, and then again, the slogan on the pizza box says "Come get some," and I guess that's why she says "Come get some" at the end of the movie.
Oh my God!
I didn't put it together that she read that off the pizza. That was
Well, she had no interaction with the pizza.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's on the box.
I think it was
she says it.
The thing is, I think that's something that somebody in a fight just said. I think like when Bruce Campbell said it, it wasn't like. I don't think it was his line. That was just a line that some people say when they're in a fight, but he's fighting fucking zombie people. Yeah. So it just kind of was funny. Like once it was funny. No matter why we don't need to go back.
She says it. It's dumb.
There's a million better lines
that you
can give to a character.
People said before sex, not fighting.
It's both. It's gotta be both.
Get some.
Come get some, beer.
Pizza, sex,
is it A or is it B?
Murder, whatever. Just come get it. Director Lee Cronin,
I'm an executive by day and a wild man by night.
Oh yeah,
that's how I wild man by day and night, motherfuckers.
Come get some.
Come get some. Lee Cronin revealed that all the characters' names were named after actors that had previously appeared in the Evil Dead series.
Oh, that's nice.
Also, the name of the high rise that the movie takes place in is called the Mond, which is an anagram of the word demon. In the first of the 3 records that Danny plays, Bruce Campbell himself is actually on that record as a bit of a cameo. He's the voice saying, "It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason."
That's a good cameo for him. I like that.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, if you can conceal the cameo so that it's like you find out later, it's a little bit better. I like the Henriettas, but that's the only one I really want to like be able to see on the surface for the most part.
Yeah. Lee Cronin also was given a hard drive by Sam Raimi. Or no, I think Bruce Campbell had it. He gave him a hard drive, and it had all of the like Foley and sound effects that were used on the original Evil Dead movies. I guess they just have a fucking bank of all that shit. So a lot of that was used in this movie too.
That's cool.
That's fucking awesome. And like I forgot to mention this, the audio mixing in this movie was great, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought they did a great job with that aspect. Like,
we need to get our hands on that disc.
It's just one compact disc for sure. That's all.
The Disc of the Dead.
Dude, what a great title for a movie. I'd watch that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the trivia. There's not a whole lot of trivia. These new releases really have a fucking pile of trivia yet. You know what time it is, folks? It's time for Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Juice, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Ooh, haven't said that in a while. Feels good. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, who is our cooter of the week?
I don't know.
The book?
This might be... the Deadites are always an evergreen Cooter, but I mean, aside from that, these characters are like, there's no Scotty in this movie. You know what I mean? There's no there's no whatever that long haired bearded dude is from the 2013 or like the fucking the Hick from Evil Dead 2 or like the shitty knight in Army Dark. There's no shitty dickhead in this movie that I can tell.
Not. The kind of boyfriend at the beginning is kind of
this movie.
The guy who gets his head ripped off,
shame.
like maybe he's so. Let's try to get that guy. Let's try to get that guy.
What's your first bump on him?
Well, I was trying to think about it. So he doesn't give a shit about the girlfriend that he's with, because she's like laid up sick in the bed, and he's kind of hitting on this other chick, but also just like, oh, that bitch gets better quick, so I could bang her. So I don't know what point.
Was that just you talking?
Smug arrogance, maybe. Smug arrogance.
Maybe. He has all of 2 lines. It's pretty tough. I think that it's implied that he's just kind of a dickhead. So I think he does fulfill the dickhead requirement. But Cooter's a different. There's a theory
requirement.
I know.
I don't know if he even tries to hit on that girl so much as he's just like playing with his fucking drone like an asshole and scaring her away. And then, I mean, maybe some smug arrogance. He acts like a dickhead. Manipulation, not really. We don't see him manipulate anybody. He's just acting like a dickhead.
Overall patheticness. I guess there's just not enough of that guy. He's the implied Cooter, I think.
Let's try,
there's just not enough evidence.
Let's try the book, assuming that all the Deadites are also related to the book. They come from it. So like the book, the fucking the attire, the way that shit looks.
Sure.
I think
that book looks uncouth.
Yeah, it's fucking biting.
Put on a dust jacket, you fucking whore.
Kind of looks like the Harry Potter book.
It's manipulative. I think we can definitely give it that.
Manipulative for sure.
Them do shit they don't want to do.
Smug arrogance.
There wasn't a lot of sexual stuff with these Deadites. Usually they get
they cut out.
Yeah, that's true.
They can't. They basically had the tree scene in the elevator early on, but they didn't really go that far, which I think is perfectly okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
No, I mean, we don't need
manipulation
to keep seeing that over and over again.
Yeah, so from the Deadites, I would say manipulation and smug arrogance are high.
Always.
Overall look in the tire, maybe.
Their
eyes look jacked. The eyes look fucking awesome, by the way.
They do look pretty cool.
The demon eyes, they're great.
The artwork was banging actually in the book. It looked pretty smooth. Not gonna lie about that. I don't know. Maybe we can't nail a Cooter in this movie. Even the Deadites.
I don't think you can. This is it's kind of
since they cut out the sexual stuff. You got the smug arrogance. You got the manipulation. You don't have patheticness. They're always on top mostly.
I mean, I would give it look and attire because it's spooky yuki with the teeth and it's all fucked up. But
okay, well, I
guess if we want to shove it back down in that bank vault, we can do it. Let's lock the book up. That's fine. That's
our first book, Cooter. Thank God we got it.
It's going back in the safe deposit box.
We've had a house before, and I remember the first couple Hydraberg picks. They were all focused on weird Cooters, like a ghost Cooter, a house Cooter.
He's gonna pick Evil Bong one day or something.
A group of Cooters,
the collective.
Oh no,
Cooter.
Ginger Dead Man. Wonder what the Cooter's gonna be.
Cooter cookie.
Jack Frost, Snowman Cooter.
Ooh, that's a frigid Cooter. All right.
My God.
All right. We kind of got him.
We kind of sort of got it.
Throw the book at the book.
The book of the dead, and you can't trust it.
Number 3.
Got it. The other 2 are fine. We're running late. Let's skip what we've been watching this
Bob,
week.
how many times are you going to skip what you've been watching?
As soon as
how
Randy
many times?
shows up on time, we'll talk about what we've been watching.
That's 5 minutes really set us back.
So let's go ahead and talk about our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
we're gonna have to do a what you've been watching exclusive
I have
episode.
17 items on my list.
Yeah.
Mine's pretty long too.
Yeah, I got a lot of shit too.
We have international flight viewings on here.
Yeah. If you guys are listening and want to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got one voicemail. This is from your boy Jack. He's calling in talking about Evil Dead Rise, actually. So let's hear what he's got to say.
All right, Straight Chillin' Podcast. I just watched Evil Dead Rises, like, less than 20 minutes ago. I wrapped it up at the theater. Dude, that movie is not okay. That is not an okay movie. Like, whoever made that movie has deep-rooted issues that they need to seek help for. The hatred of man from those demons in those movies. This is Jack, by the way. I don't know if you guys like the name thing matters, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, fuck, dude. No, like, I get it, right? The Evil Dead movie, if you take it literally, it's a fucked up movie. Like, you're stuck in an area with some demons that want nothing but pain. And, like, that was like a modern day. I never saw the other Evil Dead remake, so I didn't know if this was going to be silly, if it was going to be like, Bruce Campbell was going to yuck it up with the boys. No, dude, that mom talking to that little girl outside that door, like, that ain't good. I need to go home and, like, relax. I'm going to go, like, listen to country music and, like, hug my dog, that movie was not cool. Good movie, but holy shit. Fuck that.
That was the end. And I got to say, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
I was like, he should watch the 2013 movie. That's
kind of surprising. Go watch that, my guy, right now.
Also, that review plays so perfectly up until he says the words Evil Dead with, you could easily transfer all of that commentary to the movie Beau is Afraid. It's like 1 for 1. If you go back and listen to that.
Up. What's wrong with it?
This guy's fucked up. There's a hatred for humanity
talking
on
to the kid.
Yeah. I gotta listen to Florida Georgia Line right now.
Oh God. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's not going to cure anybody's problems.
Do not do that. Well, glad
for calling.
Yeah, glad you liked the movie.
What a stupid.
Glad you somewhat liked and also resented the movie.
Yeah, it seemed like you enjoyed it as much as you really can, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up for sure. I think it's interesting to hear someone's opinion of this movie who has not seen the 2013 movie. I'm going to assume he's seen the original trilogy, I guess, but hasn't seen the 2013 version, because I think this probably would hold up better for me too if I hadn't seen that first, I think.
Yeah. If you didn't know that tone was coming,
yeah.
I think so.
Interesting.
They didn't break that genie out of the bottle, but if you hadn't seen that one, it makes sense that you would feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's why I was kind of thinking, like, if somebody just was like, "Oh, I'm going to go see a horror movie in the theaters," they said some teens or something, and they hadn't seen Evil Dead, then this movie would be like,
good.
What the fuck?
I didn't tell you guys this, but the second time I watched this, like within the first 2 minutes of the movie, this like senior citizen guy up towards the front answered his phone on speakerphone. Was like, and had like a full minute conversation. Like, no, I'm in a movie right now. No, a movie. I'm watching a movie right now. And he's like, yeah, well, what you got going on? And something like that. And somebody went up and like talked and like said some shit in his ear or whatever. But it was, I want to know what that guy thought of the movie.
How do you
was at an Alamo? He could have easily been tossed the fuck out too.
Yeah,
they just put on screen like you will be kicked out if you use your phone or
That's
whatever.
How are
insane.
people so oblivious? I don't
know.
understand
It
that.
made me laugh after, like, just thinking about. I wonder what that guy really thought of this movie. What did he think he was getting into when he bought this ticket?
I've found this new phenomena that's happening. Like, people will be. I walk into a public restroom to take a leak or whatever, and someone will be like sitting on the john taking a shit, having a full conversation with someone on their phone on speakerphone. So I get to hear both sides of the conversation while I'm taking a leak. Like, what is your thought
Anyone
process?
who speaks on speakerphone is insane. Because
I generally agree.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
If somebody's taking a shit while on speakerphone next to me, I'm going to fart as loud as my body will allow me to. That is the truth. And by the way, that same Alamo, I went to the bathroom afterwards, and there was one urinal that I could use, and the rest of the bathroom, the entire rest of the bathroom, covered in vomit. Someone had a time in there. Someone had a fucking time in there. Jack might have just gotten out of that same theater.
Good Lord. That's rough.
Sounds like a great advertisement for going to the theater.
Yeah, it's man, that's the nice theater.
Oh God.
Yeah, Alamo's. Yeah, it's a nice theater. I've never.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. That one is has problems, consistent problems. But there's another Alamo that's better, but it's further away. So I just rolled a dice on that one.
That's good.
Anyway,
I've never seen like vomit in a bathroom in a movie theater. I don't think, but I did when I watched Pearl. I mentioned this on the Pearl review. At the end, when we're getting that awesome, monologue that's like 8 minutes long or whatever it is, someone at like the very far back of the theater just started puking everywhere. You could hear it slapping against the floor, just like piles of puke. It was nuts.
Once I pooped in my pants in school, and I just left it in all day.
You just leave it.
Poor, sad sons of bitches.
Dude, people just come to the theater just to shit and vomit, apparently. Just to blast brownies and blow them out the fucking mouth, too. Damn.
All right. Thanks for calling, Jack. Check out Evil Dead 2013. I think
glad we skipped what you've been watching.
Me too.
Worth it.
Call in and leave a voicemail for next week's show, 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out?
What are we talking about? Troll
hunters.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be a good one for any kind of like folklore. Like, are you from somewhere that's got some like cool local folklore?
Do you have
think
trolls?
like not a people?
Are you a Nordic boy?
Yeah, just like something you think maybe not a lot of people know about.
Send us your trolls.
Something like that. Yeah.
Send us your trolls.
Send us your little local stories.
Send us your nilbogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about crazy creatures living in the woods over where you're at. We want to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
904-638-3231. Next week we're watching Troll Hunter from 2010. This was the winner of our May poll, Juice's Takeover Month. So check that out and get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Again, we're trying to become legitimate Rotten Tomatoes critics, and I think we need like another 22 5-star reviews on iTunes.
We'll never get those
to make that happen. And then
not that many people like us.
No, nobody likes us. And then we're gonna fuck shit up on Rotten Tomatoes, and you're gonna enjoy it probably, mostly, for sure.
Probably.
Sounds like Rob's.
That's too damn bad.
Sounds like Rob's bedroom talk. You're probably gonna enjoy it. Maybe.
No.
I think you're maybe probably gonna enjoy this.
Come get some.
Come get some.
But with more blood.
I don't know. Maybe come get some
more blood. I crossed the line. You can find us on social media everywhere. Do that, Straight Chilling Podcast. Again, we're going to be doing Joe Bob Watch Party this Friday, and we're going to be doing another live watch the following Sunday, Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. Check that out. Until next week's show, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Groovy.